It's 2 a.m. You can't sleep. You're not going to call your mom. You're not going to text a friend. You open an app instead. Right now, millions of people are doing exactly that. Not to order food, not to doom scroll, to talk about how they're actually feeling. Today, what's actually happening when people turn to AI for mental health support? The part that's genuinely helping, and the part almost nobody's talking about. Here's the number that should stop you. In a 2026 survey of licensed psychologists, more than a third said they now have patients using AI as an additional mental health professional. On top of therapy, or instead of it. Nearly 4 in 10 said patients were using AI to self-diagnose. That's not a fringe behavior anymore. That's a shift. And it didn't start with anyone deciding to replace their therapist. Because, in practice, it doesn't look like a decision at all. It looks like a Tuesday. Someone pastes a text message from their ex into a chatbot and asks what it means. Someone describes 6 symptoms and asks what condition that sounds like. Someone rehearses what they're going to say in a real session on Thursday because they know they'll freeze when they get there. And there's a difference between the two big versions of this. On one side, companion apps built to feel like a relationship. They remember you're weak. They have a face. They check in. On the other, a general chatbot with no therapeutic design at all, being used as one anyway, by a person who never called it that. Nobody in either group would tell you they're in treatment. Ask them, and they'd say they were just typing. So let's be fair to it for a second, because there's a real reason this is happening. Therapy is expensive. Wait lists can run months. AI is available at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday when your therapist very much is not. For a lot of people, it's not AI instead of a therapist. It's AI because there was no therapist available at all. And researchers aren't dismissive about this. There's real interest in AI for early screening, for mood tracking between sessions, for coping reminders, for taking the administrative weight off clinicians who are already stretched. But the honest reason people keep going back isn't the features. It's that there's no judgment theater, no pause, no face doing the thing faces do, no worrying you're the friend who's too much this month. You can say the ugly version of the sentence, the one you've never said out loud, and nothing happens to you. Infinite patience, zero shame at the door. If you've ever waited 3 days to send a hard text, you understand exactly why that's compelling. So if it's helping this much, why are the world's top health authorities sounding the alarm? Because the thing that makes it comfortable is the same thing that makes it unreliable. Start with what these systems are optimized for, not accuracy, agreement. They're trained to be helpful and pleasant tends to mean agreeable. Clinicians have a word for the failure mode, sycophancy. The model tells you what you're leaning toward hearing. A good therapist will push back on you. That's not a bug in the relationship. That's most of the job. Then there's the tone problem. When one of these tools is wrong, it doesn't sound wrong. It sounds calm, structured, sourced, and completely certain. Which is a terrible combination at 3 a.m. when you're not in a position to fact-check anything. And psychologists are flagging dependency signals. When the app becomes the only place a thing gets said, when it's checking in more than people are, when the honest conversation always happens on the phone and the fake one happens at dinner. Venting to it about your boss is one thing. Being talked down from something by it, alone, at 4 a.m. is another. And the line between those two moments is not a line you notice yourself crossing. Which is exactly what the experts started saying out loud this year. On January 29, 2026, a WHO-supported meeting brought researchers and clinicians together on exactly this question. Their framing was blunt. Generative AI is being used for emotional support at massive scale by systems that were never designed for it and never tested for it. Young people were named as a top concern. There have been cases in the national news. People who spent months confiding in chatbots before dying by suicide. Those cases are in litigation and in the record, and they are the reason a panel at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health met in early February to talk about well-being and AI with actual urgency. Regulators are moving, slowly. In 2026, Oregon passed a law requiring companion apps to have crisis protocols and to route minors toward human care. California and Washington have moved in the same direction. Meanwhile, the public already made up its mind. In YouGov polling, 43% of Americans now say they're very concerned that AI could make mental health worse. That's up from 35% in June of 2025. People are worried about the thing they are actively using. Both are true at once. So where does that leave you at 2 a.m. with the app open? The honest answer isn't dramatic. Professional bodies aren't saying never use AI for support. They're saying it should assist, not replace, an actual clinician, especially for anything beyond venting or everyday coping. If you want a rough personal test, use 3 levels. Green, journaling your mood, drafting the hard message, talking yourself down from a spiral about an email, prepping what you actually want to bring to a real session. That's fine. That's useful. Yellow, when it's the only place you say the real version, when it's agreeing with you every single time and that's starting to feel good, when you'd be embarrassed for anyone to see how much you're in there. Red, crisis, medication decisions, anything about hurting yourself. That's a human, tonight, and it's not a close call. Using it to journal your mood or talk through a bad day is very different from making it your only confidant during an actual crisis. The tool doesn't know when it's out of its depth. So, is AI becoming your therapist? For a lot of people, yes. The real question isn't whether that's good or bad. It's whether it knows its limits, because right now, it doesn't. You have to. If this changed how you think about that app on your phone, subscribe. Next week, why Gen Z says they've never felt less motivated, and the data is not what the takes say it is.